get ready to dive into the rhythmic realm of the Drumheads podcast, where beats meet banter. Whether you're a drummer or just love a good music story, Drumheads is your backstage pass to the world of drumming and all things in between. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and please remember to subscribe. Find us at Drumheads Podcast on Instagram and at drumheadspodcast.com. And now here's the show.
Yeah, just so if you don't mind, if you want to just kind of start how you got started playing drums, and were you a drum kid marching in high school and things like that?
Well, oddly enough, I come from a family of musicians. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally, and all of my dad, my uncle, my grandfather, they all played music.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't remember ever not playing drums. My family says I started at 3. Like I apparently jumped on their drummer's drums and joined in at a rehearsal one day. But I actually don't have any memories of not playing drums. So I guess I did start super early. And I played with my dad and my uncle and my grandfather when I was a kid all the time. They had a little kind of a cover band and kind of learned how to play everything from that. But yeah, I've weirdly enough, I've always been a drummer. I have no memory of not being a drummer.
The music that your family was playing, do you still favor that sort of stuff and maybe even play along with the songs still?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
I still, unfortunately, my uncle passed away last year, but my dad and my uncle still had their cover band from when they were kids, that they'd been doing it their entire life. So whenever I'd go back to Baltimore, I'd make sure to know that I could play with them. As all the the Beatles, Zeppelin, Stones covers.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, all that stuff. Absolutely, always.
Did you march in high school or anything like that? Or
I did get roped into the school band in middle school. My elementary school had school talent shows, and me and my dad showed up when I was, I guess, 8, and auditioned for the school talent show playing "Ice Cream Man" by Van Halen.
Oh, you're kidding!
No. So they promptly put us on as the headliner of the talent show. So I got sort of outed as a child drummer at that point. So when I got to middle school, that was starting in 5th grade. 6th grade, we changed to middle school, and the school band couldn't get anyone to play percussion in the school band. So the music teacher came to me and said, "Look, we know you're a drummer. Will you join the school band? If you do, we have a drum set that you can use."
Oh, wow.
When you have to play the snare drum, but when there is a drum kit there, and you can borrow it anytime you want. So they sort of not blackmail, but coaxed me into joining the band with a really cool Ludwig drum set.
Were you reading charts, or did you learn while you were in there?
Yeah, I learned how to read. I learned how to read charts in the middle school band, and to this day I can still read charts, and it's awesome.
Do you use it while playing with Bad Religion?
Not really. It's funny, when we were making our last record, Age of Unreason, we did it so fast that I actually at one point started making my own sort of like makeshift charts for a couple of songs. Yeah. And Brett's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of making a cheater chart." He's like, "That is the coolest thing I've ever seen."
Really?
Yeah.
What about with the Decades recordings that you guys did recently? Did you have to kind of get a refresher on some of those songs?
Not really, just because, growing up as a fan of the band, I was kind of already familiar with most of the stuff. So, and obviously, like most people, we all were sort of just holed up during COVID. So there wasn't a lot for, especially musicians, a lot to do other than, hey, let's learn tunes. So, with that downtime, we were able to learn all that material pretty quickly and pretty spot on. So we didn't, actually, we learned it really fast. We didn't spend a lot of time rehearsing. We just sort of decided to do the Decades, and I think we all did, a little bit of prep at home, got together, rehearsed for maybe 3 days, and then went and did it.
Yeah.
And what you hear on Decades is what we did, warts and all. I mean, there's mistakes.
Yeah.
There's all kinds, but we were like, you know what? It's going to be real. It's going to be cool.
It's awesome. I've been playing it on repeat for a while.
Oh, nice.
While I work, listen to it. When you first started playing, were you what kind of kit? What was your setup like? And has it changed through the years?
It hasn't really changed much. I mean, I grew up, with a Ringo kit. I had a little it wasn't a Ludwig, but it was some sort of Japanese knockoff, but a little blue sparkle, one up,
Yeah.
one tom up, one tom, just the 4-piece kit with exactly like Ringo's kit. And then I discovered Bonham, so another cymbal showed up and another floor tom, and it's kind of stayed the same my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, the toms have come here and there, a couple extra cymbals here and there, but at the end of the day, it always ends up just sort of Buddy Rich, John Bonham.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first started playing, I was I came from a metal background sort of thing, and I was like, oh, I got to have more toms, I got to have more cymbals, and then I started realizing that all that stuff didn't matter.
Right.
You can get by with two cymbals and one up, one down, and be done.
Oh, absolutely. When I was 15, buddies had a cover. We had a metal band, and I had the 2 bass drums and a couple of toms, and kind of realized pretty quickly, like, I don't really need all this.
Yeah.
So it went the wayside pretty quickly.
Started striking stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah, they showed like, well, the compromise was I'll get a double pedal. I don't feel like lugging this other bass drum around.
Are you still playing a double pedal?
Yeah, I didn't for a long time, and then when I joined Bad Religion, I realized that Brooks Wackerman is the double bass master, and I loved a lot of the stuff that he had done. So I kind of hadn't really approached it since I was probably 15, 16 years old. So I joined the band, told those guys, I don't play double bass, but I'm willing to learn again. So I got a double pedal and promptly, did a crash course on how to do this again.
Yeah, woodshedded. I said woodshedded to get it back.
Oh, absolutely. It came back pretty quickly, and it's been really fun after not doing it for so long. Because I mean, like I said, once I jettisoned that second bass drum at 15, double kit kind of went out the window for 20 years.
Yeah. So with the recent tour, and I mean, we were talking earlier about the times I've seen you guys in decades. I mean, you're on just blasting from start to finish. What do you do to like stay in shape in the off season when you're not touring?
I do a lot of dog walking. I have a large pit requires a lot of dog walking. I just got back from a dog walk, actually, about an hour.
Do you do any sort of calisthenics or anything like that?
Not really. My wife has a yoga school, and she's taught me some stretching and some breathing here and there. I'm not real big into yoga. That's sort of her thing. I stay out of her lane. But she's shown me some things that are really, really helpful. And it's funny because a buddy of mine, Dave Elich, another drummer, he incorporates a lot of this stuff that my wife has shown me. He sort of has roped it or sort of, put it into his teachings, which is really neat.
I've seen it.
But it's really cool. But not a lot of calisthenics. Like we have, guys in our band that are runners, not a big jogger. But yeah, I just do a lot of dog walking and a lot of drum playing at home.
Have you run into, as you've gotten older, and no insult, I mean, the gray hair here, have you found that you're having like any sort of issues with like posture or your shoulders, your back, things like that?
It's funny. I'm having this conversation with a drummer friend the other day. I'm going to knock on every wood I can find.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it.
Not had one issue yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm just knocking on wood. I'm thanking my lucky stars. But so many of my friends are like, oh man, my wrist, my shoulders. I'm like, guess I'm lucky or doing something accidentally right.
Yeah. I've when I stopped playing, I started doing CrossFit and almost wrecked my shoulders doing that. And then stopped doing that just because I knew I was going to tear my shoulders up, and started back. I used to box, so I got back into boxing, and I think that helps a lot.
Just a difference afterwards, but I kind of dropped it and haven't done it in a long time, but I noticed there wasn't anything really detrimental. It really kind of did help.
Yeah. And it was great. And I'm actually coaching now, so that, I'm learning more and more about it. And,
nice.
So it helps. Yeah. I was going to say, when I started teaching myself how to play, I guess because, I don't know, it was something that I just naturally did, but I didn't slump, and, I had really good posture, sat up straight, and, tried that.
Yeah. I'm 6'2", and I sit pretty low. That kind of why I started sitting low at a young age, because I was tall, fast, young. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of tall guys tended to slouch. So I made sure to sit low enough to where I didn't have to slouch to hit the drums. So I wonder if that weird sort of vein thing actually helped my posture.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there, I remember, years ago back in Modern Drummer, people were talking about the posture and, you know, people like Dave Elrich was doing things and they were talking about,
Yeah.
let's bring working out into, because what we do is physical as a drummer,
Oh,
you know,
it's a real thing. Oh, yeah.
and, like I was coaching a kid the other day at the gym and we use 16-ounce gloves, and I was telling him, I'm like, you're wearing a pound on your hand, and you're going to be throwing at least 500 punches in one
Yeah.
class. And if you kind of move that over to a stick, well, it's not a pound, but it's still got some weight to it, depending on what size stick you use. You're throwing that weight around, so it can
For sure.
it can easily wear things out, and you know you get the carpal tunnel and whatever
Oh,
else.
yeah.
If you're
I'm a million smarter drummers have said this a million times, but it's really about the way you grip the stick. So many guys grip it too tight and it just tears your wrists
yeah.
up. It's all about really light, loose grip and not. I mean, it's funny. People think I'm a really hard hitter. I'm actually not. It just looks like it. But you hit the drums too hard, you hold the sticks too high, you're going to hurt
Yeah, it's
yourself.
technique. What size stick do you use?
It's a Vader Fatback 3A.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not too big.
So it's not huge, but not
Yeah.
tiny.
What's the length on
I
those?
mainly it doesn't have a very steep grade at the top, so I don't rip the tips off with all that super fast ride cymbal with Bad Religion all the
Is
time.
it a wood tip?
Yeah, it's a wood
Okay.
tip.
Yeah, I told you I was getting back into playing, so I'm like, I'm researching like what kind of stick should I get, and
Oh, cool.
cymbals
Yeah,
and all that sort of
like
stuff.
a little beefier than a 5B, but not as big as like a rock stick. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or the half. Yeah.
What kind of what's your setup currently? What do you currently? I know you play Yamaha. What's your current setup? Cymbals and everything.
Cymbals are. I've been with Sabian forever, and I'm really back into the Neil Peart Paragons
Oh,
again.
really?
Love those. So yeah, I wasn't the biggest Rush fan. I'm that guy that's like but I love the cymbals. They're great.
Or,
So I got a bunch of Paragons this next tour, and I been using the Live Oak Customs forever with Yamaha. And this next tour we switched to a stage custom just because I really like birch. I have behind me a vintage Yamaha RC from the early '90s, I
mhm.
think, and it's birch. So I was like, hey, you guys got a birch kit? So they sent me a stage custom for the next tour, which is going to be
What
fun.
sizes are you playing?
14, 16, 18, 26-inch
Oh,
kick,
wow.
and 14 by 8 snare.
Wow. You're going big, aren't you?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I've always
Oh, is
used.
it really? Okay.
Yeah, kind of the only thing that's ever really changed is sometimes the kick goes to 24. Sometimes the rack tom will be a 13,
Okay.
but 14, 16, 18, 26.
People talk about the sizes of kicks and like the speed that they respond. Have you, moving sizes around, have you found that to be true?
Not yet, not really. Our sound guy Ronnie, he kind of likes the kick drum really packed densely with a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
so it gates the diameter, and it just the kick drum doesn't have a ton of response anymore. It's basically hitting a brick
Are
wall,
you using
but it
triggers?
sounds no
Okay.
triggers. That's the like he likes to pack a lot of pillow in there and kind of just defeats whatever size it makes everything sort of the same. It levels the playing field, so to speak. So
Gotcha. What
I don't know.
when you first started playing, we had talked about Bonham being an influence. Was there anybody that you tried to, of course, as you're younger, you just look at bands, you go, oh man, they're really cool. Was there anybody
Yeah.
as you got older and you got more, I'll say, mature in your playing, where you started going, I want to, I like that style. I want to try to be like that guy. Was it always like a Bonham, or was there other influences?
No, I mean, I kind of got influenced by everything. I always joke. I said this one time. My joke is I sort of celebrate the Daves. I love Dave Lombardo and I love Dave Weckl. So I'm sort of the happy medium. I like to think if we like sort of take a little bit of Lombardo, a little bit of Weckl, and made my thing.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
that's funny. We the group of guys I used to run around with in Houston, we were called the Doom Society, and we
Yeah.
called Slagle when he was still actually living at home because Slayer wasn't going to play Houston on uh, what album? It was the EP after their first album. I can't remember the name of it, but they were touring on it, and they weren't going to play Houston. So we called Slagle. We tracked down his number, and we called him, and he was like, "Y'all got to set everything up for him. You got to give him a place to stay. You got to, PA everything done, done." Because we had been doing that with like bands like with Anthrax and Exciter and some other
Yeah.
bands back then. And
Wow.
I was going through photos the other day. I have photos of Dave with his one kick. He played one kick on that first album. He didn't play a double
Wow.
kick. Yeah, he was.
No kidding.
Yeah. I found those photos, and he's got like rototoms. It was really funny to see. Um,
That's
I was thinking about if I could clean them up because they're kind of dark at the place I played. But yeah, he was a single kick guy on that first
no
album.
kidding.
Yeah,
Wow. I did.
yeah. So I mean, like as you get older and you start maturing into playing, you kind of start thinking, okay, this is my thing. Was there a style like a jazz or like I'm going to be a rock musician? I'm going to play this way. Was any of that in your mind when you were starting off and coming up, or is it still there, or do you just say I'm a drummer?
It's kind of the I'm a drummer. Like I said, I've always, as far as I know, played drums. I love drums. I love every drummer, and I sort of find the things that are interesting and what if I could do that? I wonder if I can incorporate that into something. But I mean, yeah, I just love drums. Drums are so cool. I mean, I just yeah, that's a tough question actually. It's an ever evolving thing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, as a musician, you get into this point where you're like, I'm here because of music first. That's
Right.
my first love is music.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, well, I can play music, so I'm going to do that also. And then, as you keep playing and you discover new music and new bands, like
Yeah.
I got into personally, I got into like I call it the alternative country thing for a while,
Hmm.
just because I had some friends that was playing it. And I ended up playing with a band out of Atlanta for a while. But yeah, I just, as I've gotten back into playing, I'm discovering that there are a lot of damn good musicians out there, especially the metal guys that are playing the blast beats, and all of
Oh
that.
yeah.
I mean, it's like, what the hell are they doing? You know,
Yeah.
especially the guy from
I know.
Slipknot. There's like that guy, and Jay Weinberg also. It's just like those guys are amazing. You know,
Absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
like I was telling you earlier, watching the Decades video, and you guys are blasting from the very start. I'm just like, and he does this every night. Wow, that's that's why I was asking. Like, what do you do to stay in shape on the road? I know you guys do play, a lot of dates. Like you just got off tour from Europe, right?
Yeah, we did. We just got back from Spain.
Yeah. I was just, I was wondering, like, how do they do it? What do they do, in their off time? You know, is it just, I want total relaxation. I don't want to do anything. What do you,
Yeah, I come home from tour. There's probably about a week of like I'm just chilling with the wife and the dog, and then I pretty quickly turn back into like I'm gonna go play some music. So I'm pretty much playing all the time when I'm home.
do you go out and play with other bands and stuff, just to keep your chops up or just play at home?
Not really. Yeah, I just kind of play at home.
Do you do the,
I mean, here and there I'll jump in. Like my old band from the '90s, Snot. We got back together to do some reunion dates recently,
yeah, I
so
saw that.
was playing with. Yeah. Um, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, I don't really have a circle of friends here that like let's go jam. Like pretty much here is a drummer in Long Beach. It's sort of like the drummer sanctuary of LA is Long Beach. So we're all down here and just looking for guitar players.
You know, technology, man, I swear.
I know. Supposed to make things better.
Yeah, it is. Um, so with you guys have a tour coming up with Dropkicks. Um,
Yes.
what's the set list going to be like? Is it going to be kind of a mix of the older stuff, or is it going to be? A mix of new and old?
That's actually good. That's a good question. We haven't had any discussions about it. We're sort of the funny thing about the band is there's so many
Right.
songs, and because of decades, we're so lucky in that respect that we learned everything. So we can sort of show up and just say we'll play whatever, and we know it and it works. So yeah, it just depends on. Yeah, we honestly we haven't had a single discussion, but like I said, we know them all, so
Yeah. Well,
we we could surprise ourselves.
the recent times I've seen you guys, it's been a good mix. The old
Yeah,
old and new, the newer stuff. So, uh,
yeah.
walk me through the songwriting process with you guys. How does that work? Do you do? Does Jay or Brian or somebody come in with a lick or riff, something, or all of that?
Yeah, it since I don't know how it was. I mean, historically, I think it's always sort of relied on Brett and Greg. Since I've been around, I'll say Age of Unreason first started with I think Greg had a couple of song ideas, sent them to Brett, and then Brett was like, "Well, I got to write some songs." So then Brett had a couple of song ideas, and then that got Brian sending riff ideas around. So then everybody just started sending songs back and forth. Um, but for the most part, it's primarily Brett and Greg write the bulk of the stuff. With Brian writes a few things here and there, and then this new we're kind of flirting with the idea of making a new record right now. And Brett's actually been down here to my house with Jay, and we worked on a new
Oh,
song.
that's cool.
And I think Greg's got a few that he hasn't sent to me yet because yeah, he's supposed to send me some new songs soon so I can put some drums on them. But yeah, for the most part, it's primarily Brett and Greg write the bulk of the material and then sort of give us free reign to do, what they want
Yeah,
to do. Brian writes his own solos, Jay comes up with bass lines. I'm free to they program drums, and it's always is apparently it's always been this way. They're just kind of like do whatever you want or play what's on the recording. Either way.
yeah.
So
So then you just send off what your ideas, or if you make any changes, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and then we actually get into the studio, then we sort of fine tune it all.
Have you um, have you ever thought about doing anything on your own? Any sort of solo work, or maybe getting together with some
I
friends, or
Yeah, I mean, I'm always working on stuff. Funnily enough, I've been kind of writing songs to some old friends from high school. Um, but I actually work on music myself. I have been kind of compiling. I won't say a solo record, but I started sort of writing tunes. I've always done that with most bands I'm in. I've been one of the songwriters, so I'm always writing songs. But yeah, I've actually have been working on sort of a record lately that's starting to shape up into something. So maybe it'll come out sooner than later. Who
feeling
knows?
good about it?
Yeah, it's just fun to do,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
oh shoot, I was going to ask you. Oh, when you guys are recording, is it pretty straightforward? Like you guys already have, going back to what we were talking about before, is it already kind of everything's ready and then you guys go in and just cut everything, or is it when you get in there,
Yeah,
it kind of grows?
yeah. Now, when we did Age of Unreason, everything had been fine tuned before we got into the actual studio. Like it had gone back and forth and between Brett and Greg and then us, like everything was pretty much ready to roll when we got to the actual
Yeah.
studio. So, which will probably be the case again this time too.
So let's go back to influences. Who are you listening to now that you has kind of made you go, oh, I need to do this better, or things like that?
Man, that's a good question. Everybody loves the kid Grayson on
Yeah,
YouTube. He's playing for Sepultura
yeah.
now. He's absolutely my favorite current new drummer, and actually got to meet him, and he's
Oh,
very
really?
very nice dude, very sweet. Oh yeah, he's super cool. But that kid's phenomenal. Like he actually was what I wanted to be. Like I was such a like Buddy Rich kind of jazz nerd when I was a kid, and I always wanted to be sort of like this rock dude that also did that. But I just never found the players or really had the patience to learn all those old Buddy Rich songs
Did you play?
because I was always
Did you use traditional grip
too
back
big.
then?
I did. I could play with traditional
Did
grip.
you?
Yeah, that's what I had to do in the school band. Yeah. So yeah, when I got turned on to Grayson, I was like, dude, that's awesome. And he's a phenom. I love that kid. He's a great drummer.
Yeah, it's
So he's sort of my
he's
my
fun to
current new favorite.
watch. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
He's fun to
he's
watch. He's
he's just fun to watch. As a drummer.
he's got the thing. He's got the thing, and it's great.
Yeah.
He can do all the technical. He can groove. It's very cool. It's very inspiring.
Have you ever thought about going back to a traditional group?
I jokingly sometimes will do it at rehearsals to the chagrin of my guitarist Brian Baker. I always get a frowny face from the king of punk if I do traditional grip as a
That's
goof.
not punk, dude. It's not punk enough.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean we laugh.
That's
We have
funny.
we joke about it. But yeah, if he sees traditional grip, I'll get a little look from him like, "What are you doing,
Yeah.
nerd?"
Yeah. Yeah. I played around with it for a while. Did you do stick control? The book?
Not really.
Okay.
No, no.
I had a drum instructor that I started taking lessons from here locally, and this guy he'd tell you to hold your palm out, and he could do rudiments, and it would never hurt your hand, but it was hard enough.
That's awesome. Oh,
The guy had, he was a huge stick control guy, um,
yeah.
but I started doing traditional grip, and I would just realize that it didn't look cool. Um, you know, so I'm with Brian on that. I'm kind of like, okay,
I think it looks pretty cool. It's funny because growing up, my talk about my dad's band. My dad's drummer played traditional grip. So when I was a kid, I just sort of mimicked him and played traditional grip for a while, and then uh, when I saw Stuart Copeland doing it, I was like,
oh
oh, okay,
yeah,
it's normal. A rock and roll guy can play traditional grip. But I soon realized when I started playing other types of music that traditional grip isn't really going to work for this. So kind of went the way of the dodo pretty
yeah.
quickly.
Speaking of Stewart, have
Yeah,
you ever wore gloves yourself?
I've had to wear gloves a few times, but only because when I first joined Bad Religion, I was still playing in my old band, And You Know Us by the Trail of Dead, which I also played guitar in. So when I started playing with BR and we were doing these, 32 songs, 2 hour
Yeah.
sets, I was just tearing my hands up, which is fine. But when I would come home from a tour, I got to go to Texas to play with Trail of Dead. I'm playing guitar, and trying to play guitar when your hands are completely shredded for was pretty impossible. So there was a few tours early on that I went into it wearing gloves, knowing I was gonna have to go back and play some guitar with the other band pretty quickly. But I got done with that pretty quickly. I got a lot of grief online from all the purists of look at this dork wearing
Yeah.
gloves. But you got to do what you got to do, man. Especially when if you got to play guitar for somebody as well. You got to save the hands.
So tell us a story about you meeting a fellow drummer and you just being in awe of influence
Um,
or not, just
uh,
somebody like,
oh yeah, yeah. But I'll tell you, who's still a good friend of mine, Shannon Larkin, who played in Godsmack.
yeah.
We grew up together. Well, we're both from the Baltimore music scene, and he was in a band called Wrathchild, who were sort of the big local band, metal band, killer band.
They
So
had an album
I
out, didn't
went to
they?
they had two albums out,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember they were
So
back in my metal days. I remember them being around.
yeah, so they were the big deal growing up, and we would go see them at Hammerjacks, and just watching him play like he was doing in metal back then, kind of what a lot of kids are doing now. A lot of what like the Joey Jordison type of drumming,
Hmm.
like he was doing that stuff back then, and sort of went unsung except for in the local area. But would go see him play all the time, and then got to meet him. And then we became really good friends to the point where we've swapped bands a few times. But I still, even though we're really good friends, I still think of him as like that guy when I was a kid would go see the big band with the big drum set just playing and just be blown away by his
Hmm.
drumming. So I still, every time I see him, it's still kind of, I go back to like, I'm the 13-year-old kid and he's the 20-year-old guy. That's still the dynamic, even though we're friends. I still feel like just the, oh, shucks little guy around him.
Yeah. That's funny.
So yeah, Shannon would be that guy for me, like be, seeing him from afar and then becoming friends, but he's still,
Yeah.
Shannon up on that mountain
Yeah.
high.
I've got a few of those, and it's great to become friends with them because
Yeah,
you kind of lose that. Oh, I've seen them out in a CD cover or on an album cover, and I've seen them live.
right.
Now I'm like, hey man, what's up? You want to go grab a coffee or whatever. So
Yeah,
so
he's the best drummer and turned out to be the best dude as well.
while we're on road stories, tell me something that happened that was bad during a gig, and then tell me something that was good during a gig.
Bad during a gig. Okay. The first
Like
time
a
I ever went
cymbal
to Europe,
stand falling
funnily
or
enough, I'd replaced Shannon and Wrathchild, but they had changed their name to Souls at Zero at that point. Shannon had moved to California to join Ugly Kid Joe. I joined Shannon's old band. We went to Europe. So we're playing in, forget what town it was in Germany, but rental gear, and the opening band on the tour showed up, and we're like, we were told we could use your drums because we don't have a drum set. And I'm like, okay, cool. So the opening band plays, drummer breaks his kick beater,
oh God.
and the shaft goes through the kick drum head, unbeknownst to us. So we go up, do our gig. About 4 songs into the set, my beater just goes right through the kick head. Show's over. 24-inch kick drum. We're in the middle of nowhere in Germany. Like, we don't have a spare. So now what? So I leave the stage. I'm like, I guess we're done. And luckily, the drum tech from the other band that we were playing with apparently had taken like an 18-inch floor tom, cut the head out, duct taped it to hell on the bass
Yeah.
drum, and came and got me and was like, I fixed it, and we managed to play. But that's a very benign, worst thing that ever happened on tour. But that was the worst thing. Breaking the kick drum
I
with no
couldn't even
spare was
imagine.
pretty bad.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it was nice. It was a nice
so
surprise.
what was
Like, son
something
of a
good?
bitch.
What's a good story?
Every day on tour is a good story.
That's awesome.
Everything about tour is the best. But what's a good story? God, there's so many.
Tell them all if
That's a
you
good
want.
question.
We got time.
Yeah, right. It's like what's a good? I mean, there's so many good stories. Hmm. Wow. There's so many. Like I said, I really do. I feel like just being able to do this for as long as I
Yeah.
have is sort of like the good story. Like, it's amazing that, I've been doing this since I was a kid professionally, and I'm still doing it,
With a great band.
and with an unbelievable band.
Yeah.
And it's just every day is pretty dang cool.
Well, how was your Spain run? How was that?
Band run was great. We had never, since I've been in the band, we had never done that extensive of a run of Spain. It's usually you go in and do like 1 or 2 shows. This was a whole, basically 2 weeks in Spain, and it was one of the bigger tours the band's ever done. It was us and Agnostic Front, strung out, a couple of bands I'm blanking
Oh
on right
wow.
now, but yeah, it was really, really a successful. We were playing sort of like small arenas, which was kind of neat. The band doesn't do that a lot, and it was a very, very cool tour.
Anything
Yeah,
anything good? Any good stories from that?
learning that Vinny from Agnostic Front is actually 70 years old and bounces around
I
on
know,
stage
isn't
like a
that
20
crazy?
year old blew my mind.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he's
Like, he is the youngest 70-year-old man I've ever seen in my
good
life.
old
Like,
Vinny
I would have, if
Stigma.
somebody told me, if someone would have told me he was 40, I would have been like, yeah, whatever. He started
Yeah.
the band when he was 1. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, still
I couldn't
doing
believe
it.
that was amazing. Yeah, and they're great. Agnostic Front was so great.
Yeah, they were one of the bands that when I was skating and stuff in Houston and really got into the punk music. They would play there
Yeah,
quite a bit. Yeah, and being able to see them back then was just amazing. And to think that
yeah.
Vinny, like you said, Vinny's still doing it. It's just like, what? You know,
Still doing it, and really good. Like, it's really, there's nothing like, oh, cringy about it. They're really good. He's great. It was very cool to watch. It was very inspiring, actually.
yeah,
Because as you get a little older in this business, you're kind of like, do we look like those weird old dudes up on stage? But
yeah,
you are what you are, and you do what you do. But
right.
watching him was like, you know what? There's no rules.
Have you ever, speaking of Vinny, he's got a book out. So does Greg. Have you ever thought about writing a
Yeah.
book?
Good God, no. Not really. I mean, it would. Somebody once told me it would probably be interesting, but there's no time for that.
I'm good. So do you do
Yeah.
when you're home, do you do any sort of drum instruction or anything like that?
No, I've always joked that I would be the world's worst drum teacher because I was actually never taught anything. I never took a lesson like I said, I've always just sort of played drums. The closest thing to a lesson was joining the middle school band and having them teach me how to read sheet music. But there was never any sort of technique taught to me or anything really. I've just sort of been a sight learner or watching other drummers.
Yeah.
But
That,
so I've had people like, oh, show me some things. I'm like, I can show you, but I'm not really articulate in explaining it the right way because it was never explained. I just
no, that's
do this.
understandable.
I don't know
Yeah.
how to. Yeah, I don't know how to explain
Yeah.
it. I can tell you, like I can spot things and tell you, like I said earlier, you're gripping the sticks too tight, or you're hitting the snare too hard, or
Yeah.
I can spot things and help with that. But yeah, I was never traditionally taught anything, so I would be horrible at trying to teach somebody
Yeah.
how to play.
Yeah. I was the same way. I learned by mimicking what I saw.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I went to every freaking show I could. Um,
Yeah. Same here.
just and focused on the drummer. What was he doing, and things like
Absolutely.
that. And
Yeah. And
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
if I could go to a show, if there was any way to be anywhere behind a drummer at a show, I was that guy. Like, the friends would be like, "Oh, I want to be out in the front." I'm like, if I could find a spot where I can see behind the
Yeah.
drums, I'll meet you guys after. I was always perched anywhere behind the drummer I could find.
Yeah. The guy I had on last week, Ali. We were talking about stories of bands we had seen, and I was working at a CD shop when I was in college out here, and the Sony rep invited us to go see House of Pain and Rage Against the Machine, and we got
Nice.
to stand on the side of the stage for Rage, and just to watch. Brad Wilk is not a technical player, but he does what the band
No,
needs.
he's a fantastic drummer though. He's a
Oh yeah,
great
he's
drummer.
solid as hell. And to
Yeah. Yeah.
watch that at that, I mean, they had it back then. This was the first album, and
I saw that tour.
with
I saw
House of
them on that
Pain
tour. Yeah.
when,
Yep.
and they had a band called Wool, I think, open for them. But
Yes.
yeah, to watch that and then see the crowd out in the venue jumping up and down.
Yeah.
They played this place in Atlanta called Masquerade, and they were on the second floor, and the floor was bouncing. You could feel the floor moving.
Very familiar with that floor at Masquerade.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how it's still there, just with all the bouncing that's gone on there and stuff.
Totally.
Well, Jamie, I don't want to keep you much longer.
Oh, no worries, my friends. This is
I
fun.
want you to enjoy your time off, but leave us with some advice. Give us some advice on playing, and whether it's somebody starting off or someone who's been playing for a while.
Yeah. I'd say the only advice I could really give is just play what you want. Like don't get sucked into that. Like, I gotta learn how to do this because this guy can do this. I gotta play fast or technical. Like just play. If you want to be in a band, play what's best for the songs. I mean, it's a very old cliche, but don't get too wrapped up in your own head. Just play what you want, and it'll be fine.
Less is more.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, what aside from the Bad Religion accounts, do you have your own social media? And can you share that with us?
Yeah, I only have an Instagram account. I'm kind of a Luddite when it comes to all the stuff, but it's just _ Jamie Miller on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Well, you got anything else to leave us with?
No, I think we, covered it the best I could. I don't do a ton of interviews. So
No,
I'm not
I
the
do
best,
appreciate it.
interviews.
This has been a real honor. Yeah, and like I told you, I mean, I'm an old Bad Religion fan. I've seen you guys so much. When I went up to Connecticut, it was just the venue was great. We just had a really good time. And it was funny because we were standing